Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the Ministry for Trade and Industry. And Italy has gone back to being a leading figure both for the G7, which has taken place here in Anagni and Fiuggi, and there will be a side event in Ferentino, because we would like to present a project which is a project sponsored by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs called Tourism of the Roots. At the same time, another event is taking place in Italy at the very core of international dialogue. And we have chosen a particular moment to do this. As a G7, we worked in depth to try and reach a ceasefire in Lebanon, and we are on the right path. So we hope that this first result may be achieved, important outcome may be achieved to start a de-escalation process in the whole area of the Middle East. Italy obviously is ready to play its role as of the day after, both in Lebanon and in Gaza. After the ceasefire in Lebanon, we hope we will be reaching a ceasefire in Gaza as well. It's been a G7 characterized by the presence of countries with which we need to have a stronger and stronger dialogue. I am thinking of several Arab countries and the countries of the Indo-Pacific area. Once again, we have shown that the G7 doesn't want to fold in itself but open up, and this has been the feature of the Italian presidency. We have done this here and in all the other 3 G7 meetings that my Ministry of Foreign Affairs has organized, but this has also been true in terms of our leadership, dealing with the situation in the Middle East by involving Arab countries. And I'm thinking of Egypt, Qatar, Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, means having the intention of building something very serious. Italy has called for this openness, and I believe that we are taking some steps forward. So equally, I hope that we may take steps forward in the area of the Indo-Pacific, having called to discuss matters that countries in that part of the world. And of course, we have to recall that Italian ships, the Vespucci air carrier, has been in those waters over the last season, in summer, beginning of the autumn. We have had a dialogue with Indonesia, India, with South Korea, and therefore countries which play a significant role there, including the Philippines. So we have launched once again a message of expansion, openness vis-à-vis the Southern Pacific area. And of course, we have also met the Foreign Affairs Minister of Ukraine. We have reaffirmed our support in 2025 to put Ukraine in a position so that it can negotiate from a posture of strength, a position of strength with Russia. I believe, therefore, that these 2 days have been highly productive. As you know, we have approved a very complex, articulated document, 16 pages worth, in which you will find some important elements. And I quote in order: the condemnation, of course, towards North Korea for its military cooperation with Russia. And we're launching a very clear signal so that we want to avoid an escalation in the eastern region of the country. In terms of the Middle East, we have reaffirmed that Iran will never have to acquire or develop a nuclear weapon. We insisted on the role of the Matei plan, and all countries recognized the role played by the Italian program Food for Gaza, which was launched, as you will read in the document, and we continue calling for a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah according to Resolution 1701. And in this perspective, I hope we can hope for a decision in this sense soon. We underline the role played by UNIFIL, our own military forces, and ask all parties to comply with their obligations so as to guarantee the security of UNIFIL staff and so that they can perform their task. So once again, a message to support UNIFIL and to the troops so that the UNIFIL military and Italian military as well may escape being attacked. As far as Israel is concerned and the decision of the court of justice, there are a few lines that represent a shared joint position of the G7. Obligations deriving from international law must be complied with, including the international humanitarian law. We will reaffirm our commitment vis-à-vis this international law, and we will comply with our obligations, underlining that there can be no equivalence between the Hamas terrorist group and the State of Israel. We tackled the issue of China. We spoke about it with respect to Indo-Pacific area. We called on China to redouble efforts to ensure international peace and call on Russia to stop its military attacks. We underlined all the issues, the trade issues at stake, and we asked China to stop trying to control exports, in particular for critical minerals that may cause a breakdown in the supply chain. We also said that the basic position of the G7 on Taiwan will not change, does not change, including the One China policy, and we support the participation of Taiwan in international organizations as a member when there is no call for being a state and being an observer where it may do so. There is a reference to human rights in China. But of course, the document consists of 16 pages. There's much to be commented on. We recalled the role of the Mattei Plan also as far as Africa is concerned. A reference, an important reference indeed, is made both to peace and to Africa. We are referring to the international conference that was held on the occasion of the G7 of cooperation on international cooperation. And we quoted this as it being a foundation and in connection with the Paris conference for the ceasefire and the peace in Lebanon and to provide aid to civilian population. We underline also the importance of supporting Africa in the production of vaccines on the part of Gavi, and we hope we can further cooperate with Gavi. As you know, President Barroso, former president of the European Commission, came in Pescara to talk about this very topic. We also tackled the issue of migration. Basically, the position is as follows. We affirm our collective engagement to strengthen cooperation and to deal with the causes of irregular illicit migration, such as global poverty, instability, climate change, and to grasp the opportunities offered by migration globally. In this respect, we will work together with the countries of origin, transit, and destination of migration so as to support their resilience and stability. We have spoken about this during the meetings I had, bilateral meetings I had with many ministers. The Indian foreign minister, and we spoke about illegal migration with him. We need foreign workers. There are many Indians in our country. We spoke about agriculture. They are excellent workers, and we tackled the issue to prove that we are against irregular migration, but of course in favor of legal migration to help our companies. There have been many bilateral meetings, starting from the Foreign Affairs Minister of Ukraine, to whom I confirmed our commitment to support the country, especially as far as the defense and reconstruction of the country is concerned, and in particular concerning the reconstruction of the electricity grid. There has been an agreement signed in February, and we have ensured that as long as the war goes on, we will continue supporting them by sending weapons to Ukraine. This is the object. These were the objects of our discussion. We have been thanked, and our role has been welcomed by all G7 ministers, also by countries not in the G7. So we shone the light on our country, which once again has become a veritable protagonist in international politics. You will have heard the words with Under Secretary of State Blinken on our relationship with the US, and I believe this is a fully fledged recognition to our country for what we're doing towards peace and stability, basically a protagonist role. And I believe this government has done much, and our presidency of the G7 has offered Italy great prestige. We have been also being congratulated by everyone by our side for our side events. Yesterday's concert by the Arma dei Carabinieri and the dinner were very successful. We, of course, involved also the Scuola Alberghiera, the tourist school, but we enjoyed the work of Chef Cecello, a Michelin star chef, but we also gave the possibility to young people with disabilities to be at the forefront in the evening and to bring their greetings to all ministers and to all delegations, because we would like the G7 to have a role in terms of integration, and so that everyone can benefit from the lights shone on our country. The facade of this building was colored orange yesterday, and we inaugurated the red color bench with the present ministers. I'd like to thank the mayors of the involved municipalities, Anagni, Fiuggi, and Ferentino this evening, and I'd like to thank all the law enforcement people, together with the fire brigade, all the voluntaries from the civil protection body, because I believe that once again Italy has been successful and has projected a prestigious image, and this enhances the role played by our country. Now a Q&A session. Thank you.
First question answer. Good evening, Minister. There was a debate or a conversation, as you mentioned, on the International Criminal Court's arrest warrants. The document expressed your stance. I'm wondering whether, as hoped for by Mr. Borrell, can we expect European countries and Italy, therefore, also to abide by the obligations of these arrest warrants if the conditions were to arise? Well, of course, we will abide by the law, but we need to look at what the law says. We need to understand whether the high positions of the state are guaranteed and therefore exempt or outside of the decisions, if the decisions apply to countries that are not within the remit of the ICC. We need to determine what are the limitations. There are many legal doubts, and the feasibility is quite theoretical in this case, because Mr. Netanyahu will never travel to a country where he would be liable to being arrested, and arrested by whom? So we need to see to it that things don't transform into something that is simply unfeasible. The risk is that this may simply be a political message, but the position is clear, and we have underscored the fact that you cannot put Hamas and the State of Israel on the same level. Our call, our appeal to Israel is clear: to always abide by international law in all of its facets, including the respecting the rights of civil populations. The words speak clearly. And of course, we came to an agreement as regards these words within the G7. Not all countries, of course, are within the remit of the ICC, and we came to a common stance under an Italian request. The response was positive on the part of the other countries, and we've tried to take a stance on this matter. Rai News, next question.
Yes, many news have been circulated concerning the agreement with Lebanon. Do you know whether it is final? You had Blinken on your side. I'm sure that they told you something more than they told us. And what about the implementation on the ceasefire? Who will be part of the deal? The United States and France. Will Italy play a role? You have often said that because of our UNIFIL presence, which is significant, and our multilateral participation, we may have a role. We are close to an agreement, but before saying that there is one, I would like to have it officially announced. As to the aftermath, we will see what happens. There will be different structures which will test out the implementation application of the agreement on the ground, and we will be part of some of these structures. Also, because we are part of UNIFIL, there will be an Italian command of UNIFIL starting from in a few weeks' time, and nothing has been talked about. We will see whether it's only the countries that have been militarily engaged with Israel, which participated in the military defense of Israel, that will take part, or whether it will be the UNIFIL countries, or maybe there will be other bodies which will play a role, and Italy will be a leading figure, of course, and this was confirmed by the French Foreign Affairs Minister. We will play a role, we are available, and of course you will remember that Blinken asked us for our Carabinieri for Palestine, so Italy will be present in that delicate theatre. We will see what happens after our hoped-for ceasefire. We will talk about it, of course. We will be part of some of these structures because probably there'll be more than one.
Il Foglio. Good afternoon, Minister. I wanted to ask you in relation to North Korea. In the communiqué, there is a coordinated response. I was wondering what you have in mind in terms of responding to the escalation of the presence of North Korean troops in Russia, especially since the latter sits at the table of the Security Council of the UN, and the other measures that you have in mind in order to halt what, according to the communiqué, is the support provided by China to the war in Russia. Well, the Chinese, as the document clearly states, should not provide any form of military support to the Russians. At all of our meetings, they've denied providing direct support, and I don't believe that. There is a full acceptance or agreement on the part of China as to the presence of North Korea in Russia, as to the rightfulness of its presence. So there's probably some divergence of views, and I don't know whether China has been informed by North Korea's decision to sustain the Russian armed forces, if I have received the accurate information. So no doubt in the course of the conversation, what has emerged is that there are some cracks in the relationship. I don't believe that China is entirely satisfied with the North Korean position. This based on the information we've gathered, whilst we did take a very clear stance as regards Venezuela. As you have read, I'm sure, we state that in actual fact the people have chosen Gonzalez and as the winner. We say we'll continue to support the efforts of the local partners to ensure a smooth transition in the governance. And there's also a condemnation of the abuse of human rights affecting in particular civil society and independent journalists and papers, and all political prisoners must be released. So we send out a very clear message to Venezuela, according to which we do not, the countries of the G7, do not recognize Maduro's conquest. Mediaset, the next question.
Good afternoon. I'd like to shift our attention to something that emerged from the debate in the EU Parliament. The name of Mr. Azteco at the head of the Anti-Recycling Committee. Would you like to tell us how important this appointment is? I believe that this has been another Italian success. Having an Italian director for the anti-recycling, anti-money laundering European body, and this is a clear indication on the part of the European Parliament, which enhances and underlines the quality of a Italian Banca d'Italia manager. The Parliament chose the Italian candidate, which means that the quality of our people is adamant. And I believe that we are on the right path, and it will probably be her to head the European anti-money laundering body. It is an Italian success story, because when European Parliament votes, it is only appropriate for the result to be an Italian result, rather the result of a political side. And in terms of the respect of rules and the anti-money laundering fight, we have a very specific expertise on the matter, which may be useful to many other European countries. So this European institution can benefit from the presence of an Italian person. Also, thanks to the expertise gathered by the Guardia di Finanza, can help the whole of Europe to fight against money laundering, thanks to the Italian know-how. So I'm very happy for this Italian success and the success of a very capable manager of the Banca d'Italia.
Paolo Santalucia. Good afternoon, Minister. Thank you. And I'm sorry if I go back to the international arrest warrant issued against Mr. Netanyahu. Well, the answer that you've given seems to empty out, as it were, the role of the ICC. Whoever is not a signatory state, whoever has not signed or is not under the ICC cannot be pursued. That would really be, losing a lot of its significance. You said that the decisions of an international court, of which Italy is a signatory state, is very important. But your answer seems to be quite vague, not clear. I repeat the same thing. We need to respect the rules. We need to understand what the rules are. Some objected to the fact that the highest, the top positions of the state are guaranteed or are covered by immunity. So that's the first great dilemma that's out there. And then a country that does not, Israel is a country that does not recognize the ICC. Italy does. So we need to see how to proceed and where Mr. Netanyahu will go. We have to be really down to earth because when theory cannot be applied in practice, it runs the risk of just remaining a political message. I don't think that Netanyahu will ever go to a country where he is liable to be arrested. To speak the truth, what does it mean to arrest him? I mean, who will arrest him? The request of the court needs to be made and needs to be issued by the courts to a judge. And then but you know, a head of government never enters into a country alone, and he would never go to a place where he is likely to be arrested. What is the formula? He's not, a private citizen. He's a head of government. It's not that easy to arrest one. Can I tell you how the rules of engagement of UNIFIL can be changed to render it more effective? That's to be determined by the UN. UNIFIL needs to be given greater force so as to prevent Hezbollah from becoming deeply rooted near the border with Israel. That's why we said a buffer from the border to the river of UNIFIL, and then another one formed by the regular army of the Lebanon. We need to reinforce them. We have a bilateral mission to support them, to train them. So they need to be given more power, as we see it, so as to prevent they don't have this power. Many reports have been sent by us to New York, but they're dead letter because nobody responded to the messages of our people on the ground who were describing what Hezbollah was doing close to the border with Israel. UNIFIL should be given the power to do something, in response to the failure to respond to or to comply with 1701.
Federico Capurso, La Stampa. Good afternoon. You've had a bilateral meeting with the Ukrainian minister, and you said you assured the full support of Italy to Kiev's resistance. So we may be facing the 10th aid package by Italy. What is the time lapse? Will it be next year? Is it going to be more urgent to send our aid, given the stronger Russian offensive happening over the last few weeks, or there may be a change? The Ministry of Defense is working to ascertain and decide what to send and what not to send. We're not wasting time, let's put it that way, on the part of our country. We're working. But I don't know when the whole thing will be finalized. So if the Ministry of Defense is at work and has been for some time, Marco Sabene, TG2. Good evening, Minister. In terms of food for Gaza, I'd like to know what's happening. In Pescara, you told us about the importance of the Italian supply side and how it can contribute. Some items of information tomorrow from Brindisi. Tomorrow morning, a new cargo will depart from Amman to bring food to the Gaza Strip. 20 tons of food donated by Coldiretti and Confagricoltura, and 20 tons of health drugs and health tools will be donated by the Red Cross. Our lorries will also be sent towards the Gaza Strip for an amount of more than €2 million. Once in Gaza, these lorries will remain inside the Gaza Strip will be used by international aid organizations, and a ship will be sent from Rosetta to the Israeli port of Ashdod. Together with these lorries on the very same ship, we will have another 15 tons of health goods donated by the Italian Health Service. San Donato is sending drugs and medical devices, which will leave Italy in a few weeks' time. We are in touch with other food and health companies for further donations. So we will move on and we will try and distribute these goods, together with the Jordanian and the PAM, the World Food Programme. We will continue working to help the civilian population and the Palestinians. The World Food Programme, Israel, Palestine, Jordan will help to distribute all these materials to the population. We have bought these lorries, which are equipped with grates so that we can avoid them being attacked by criminals. They are protected. They are able to travel on difficult ground. So the World Food Programme has collection sites over there, and we will send all this material, and the World Food Programme will, of course, organize distribution. Reuters.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I, too, wanted to ask about the court, but since you've discussed this extensively, I'd like to ask something else. In Ukraine, is it realistic to think that there may be peacekeepers from Saudi Arabia or Turkey once a possible agreement is reached? That's a hypothesis that's out there. What do you think about the UniCredit and Banco BPM position? That is more, deal. That is a question regarding your role as a minister. Well, I have no news. We need to first reach peace, and then if there are peacekeepers, we need to see what the UN will do. First, we need to work to build up a fair and just peace. We want to bring on board India, China, Brazil in the negotiations that should lead to an agreement that will restore this area in such a way that it is no longer exposed to war. As regards UniCredit, we need to see how things unfold. I am in favor, of course, of the free market. It is certainly not up to me to take a political action as regards this whole affair. There is evidence of the fact that our banking system is very much alive and kicking. It means that our banks have overcome the crisis. They're very sound, and so if things are happening, it's always a good thing. And of course, we need to see whether what is done in relation to the rules, well, that's up to the European Central Bank to determine whether or not what is done is in keeping with the law, the rules and regulations, and whether what happens is in keeping with the bank regulations and standards. I believe that politics should not mingle with this type of affair. As regards Germany, I've said the same. If an Italian bank, churches, purchases a portion of a German bank, that's part of the rules of the European Union. You can't get upset, and vice versa. If somebody purchases shares in our banks, there's nothing that we can do about that. The free market must always be defended and protected. And of course, there are rules that are to be looked into by the central bank.
Davide Commento, Kyodo News. Good afternoon. I would like to go back to North Korea and tensions in the Indo-Pacific area. As you said, there is the problem of the troops sent from North Korea to aid Russia. We can say that European and Asian security are highly interconnected. Japan is the only Asian member of the G7. What is its role, in your opinion, in this international scenario? Thank you. Japan is an ally and a friend of ours. It often takes part in NATO meetings, and we invite them to G7 meetings, and together with South Korea, it represents a beacon of freedom and democracy, as is represented by New Zealand, the Philippines, Australia. So we want these countries to feel that their democracies are guaranteed. South Korea is always hiddenly and not so surreptitiously threatened by the launch of missiles from North Korea. There is a certain activity there, but whether this is supported by Russia, we have to think about it. Through the G7, we launched a very clear message. We condemn all the missile launches that may hit Japan on the part of North Korea, which is not a champion of democracy by a long stick. Elena Testi, La Sette. Good evening, Minister. I'd like to go back to the arrest warrant. I know that this note arrived after a long debate. What was the debate like? Was there any issue that you had a clash on? The French minister said that France will comply with the obligations it has. Is this the same line? Will Italy rigorously comply with its obligations? So we need to understand what these obligations are. Of course, we follow and comply with our obligations, but what are our obligations? We have to read the ruling carefully. This is rather significant. Can we or can't we? That's the issue. Obligations come from the law. Can we or can't we arrest a head of state and a head of government? Well, these are hypothetical sentences, because no head of state will go to a country where a judge may arrest him or her. He's not or she's not a private citizen. You can't go and arrest him at his home. Up till now, the ICC managed to do something. These are not people who've been sentenced. He should be arrested in order to be brought in front of a court. The only case has been the Serbian case, but it was the Serbs who actually took Milosevic to sit in front of a court. So I'm always very pragmatic, down to earth. It is no accident that we said we need to read the ruling and read the papers first. Is there an immunity or isn't there for the highest positions of a democratic state? That's the first question to be answered, because otherwise it's not as if a judge, a prosecutor in any town may decide that somebody can be brought to a court, be it European or national. It is not the state or a government that decides about this. It is a court. If there are rules to be complied with, we will, but we have to understand what the rules are. So we have to carefully read the ruling and know, above all, and that's the other big doubt, whether immunity or not applies. Then we have to understand whether Mr. Netanyahu comes to Italy. The court must send him in front of the Court of Justice, and then the prosecutor must issue a warrant, then he will be arrested. It's a hypothesis, because a head of state will, a prime minister will not move on his own. So if I have to tell you what is my position, politically speaking, it is a political message that's been sent, because it is highly unlikely that Mr. Netanyahu will be arrested until he sits in Israel being a prime minister. Just imagine how this arrest takes place, and if it takes place. We will close the press conference here, and thank you very much. And Mr. Blinken is coming soon, isn't he? Thanks. Have a fruitful working day. Thank you.